Because there's an old saying in spirituality, and it is, people turn to God when their foundations are shaking, only to discover that it is God who is shaking them. Please help me out of this situation, just make this thing better. But they're the one who made the situation happen. Why are you asking that? Are you begging for mercy? Who's doing this? So you're asking God to help you out of a bad situation when God created that bad situation. Instead of understanding that you and the divine source energy are one, co-creating, you might say together, even though you're one, it's all together as one. You are not your mind. You are not your personality. You're certainly not your body. I see more and more people, the shift is that they're surrendering to knowing that they are the ones who create and own their peace. And that shift automatically disarms, defuses all the bombs of conflict and contrast with everybody else, because you start to see everything as part of the bigger picture. I see this happening more and more than ever, more than 10 years ago, more than 5 years ago. What do you say?
Wow.
Exactly. Wow. I think wah and wow is a sound that everywhere I've gone in the world, people understand that sound. If you look at something and go wah or wow, it doesn't matter where you're from, that translates.
It's awe, for sure.
Yeah. Ah. Ah. Aha. Is this the moment where I say ah, and aha, and wow, and wah? We say in India, wahe guru, or we see some music that we see in India, we go wah. Or back home in the Bronx in New York, we be like, wow, bro.
Dope.
Oh, this is sound. Everything is that, all the feeling is in the frequency.
It is.
We value frequency because it is the creative truth more than anything on the planet, because we don't call God the doer or the seer or the beer or the thinker. We call God the creator. That means that we value creation more than anything, and that whenever we're not creating in life, whenever we're not creating, that's when we feel dead or like we're dying. So this is what we are. Now we're starting to call the energy of what we call God, source, universe, formless, nameless, all forms, all names, and everything in between. We seem to now also refer to that as what an artist, the artist. But that's also creation.
He's channeling something.
Well, we know what would happen. Let's talk about hi everyone.
I'll give Riz a little introduction, brother. Riz Mirza, welcome on the show. First of all, just tell us, what are you most excited about right now in your life?
Part of me wants to say the thing that feels the most immediate, what I'm creating. So to be very, very just day-to-day truthful, I'm working on my Oracle deck, which is a deck of cards that has images and artwork of many of the spirit guides that I channel. And some of these spirit guides, they have names that you guys have all heard of. So it might be Merlin or might be Saint Germain. But I also have spirit guides in this deck, messages I've channeled. Get ready, because you're going to go, no. And I'm going to say, yeah. I've channeled messages from Biggie. I've channeled messages from Colonel Sanders. I've channeled messages from Andre the Giant, the wrestler. Those are just three I'm going to name.
Tupac, is he alive?
Well, he's always been alive. No, he's not on the planet. Whitney, meaning Whitney Houston. So you go, how can those people be spirit guides? What do you mean? Do we have a judgment on who can be a spirit guide and who can't? Many people who made very big impacts on the planet and then left early, they came to, and Bruce Lee is one of them. Now, Bruce Lee, you say, well, I can understand that Bruce Lee is a spirit guide because he's so amazing, but I can understand how Colonel Sanders is a spirit guide. Well, then you don't know this person's story. Remember something, everyone. You have looked like me before, and I have looked like you before. Spirit has no ethnicity. When you go to the other side, you can take any form that you wish, but that's not what you are, because that's a physical DNA characteristic. So you have ancestors from other lifetimes. So when you say my ancestors, I might say my ancestors. Oh, you mean your Indian ancestors, Riz? I also have Mongolian in me, I have Persian in me, and I have African in me. So I might say, well, no, I'm actually going to talk to you now about my Irish ancestors. Oh, did you do your ancestry.com? You found out you have some Irish? No, none. I have no Irish in this physical body. I'm talking about past lives that I've remembered where I saw my Irish dad and my Irish mom. I saw my skin as that. Why would I discount those ancestors just because I have a so-called indigenous skin tone right now? Why do I say so-called? Are people from the Bronx indigenous, or from Harlem where I was born and raised? So am I not indigenous to India, or am I indigenous to the Bronx? Do we have to place each other in boxes to then have a resume of now I will listen to you? At the same time, you believe that spirit is all things. Great spirit is all things, formless, but also in all forms, nameless, but with all names. Then spirit can be anyone, anything, any ethnicity, any style. Your shaman might be wearing an Ozzy Osbourne t-shirt and teaching you how to play guitar. That's where one of my shamans taught me. In fact, that shaman, yes, the shaman is one who takes you from darkness into light through certain practices. Mm-hmm. That would be a definition without any kind of bias. A shaman is an individual, doesn't matter the gender or orientation or identification marks, who takes you from lack of knowledge into knowledge through certain practices. That's why we say she's the shaman of Wall Street. She's the shaman of ramen. Taught me how to make ramen. The shaman of ramen. So one of my greatest teachers was my guitar teacher when I was just 14 years old. And one might say, well, what did he look like? He was a beer drinking, pot smoking guy who basically didn't have a job and was sleeping on his parents' couch. But there was a guru in there. But he taught me about the fluidity of notes, and then I understood the harmony and the melody and the rhythm of the universe through that. And someone might say, but Riz, tell me about when you were in India, when you were a kid and your uncle stood on his head and he was 80 years old. And then you sat there in the snow in the Himalayas for 4 hours meditating. And tell me about that. I'm happy to tell you about that, but let me tell you about what made more of an impact on me. That guy who was teaching me how to play guitar. Is it the principles we're going to talk about, or is it going to be about who is the teacher?
The labels that we're fascinated with.
The labels, the face. People get fascinated. Oh, I need to learn from someone who, I don't know, doesn't wear a ton of eyeliner in his eyes and put his hair in a mohawk and wears rings. And
I love it.
Is that an Illuminati tattoo he has there? You know, that's the Illuminati. Why? Because you read it on the internet? Did you look up Renaissance paintings and see that this was in Renaissance paintings as the eye of God behind Jesus? And in simpler terms, it's also just called the psychic eye. So are we about the symbols? What does the symbol mean? Where I have symbols, all different, the chakras, they're tattooed on my arm. Okay, that's spiritual. Oh, so that's spiritual? Okay, is this spiritual? There's Harry Potter's symbol. Is that spiritual too? Or this is more spiritual? Well, that's more spiritual because it's older. Yeah, but J.K. Rowling channeled Harry Potter.
100%.
And is affected probably affected just as many people as the chakras. Because now a lot of people, because of Harry Potter, are understanding energy and magic. And the very last Harry Potter, the way he defeated the darkness through Voldemort was, he said, actually, I feel sorry for you. He said, because I've already won because I have friends. That's what Harry Potter said to Voldemort in the end. He said, I won because I have friends. And what he was saying is because I have love. At that point, it didn't matter about the spells or that he went to Hogwarts or that Dumbledore was his teacher or not his teacher. We found out that Snape was actually the one protecting him. Oh, I thought he was the devil.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, if you haven't, yeah, exactly. It's 20 years ago now. But what about this? Many people will ask me, they say, Riz, sometimes I feel a dark energy that's holding me down at night. It's appearing to me in my room. How do I get rid of this dark force? And I'll say, well, remember, everything is God, source, whatever word you want to use. Let's just use the word God for now. Let's not get into any arguments about that word, right? You know what we mean. So the force. And I say, well, many times your spirit guides, like very good teachers, will challenge you. And they'll take the form of something dark in order to see what are you going to do. Have you raised kids? Sometimes you have to tell kids, don't go outside because there's a bear. If you tell them they're going to get hit by a car, that doesn't bother them as much as you tell them there's a bear. They can understand a bear. So what's going to happen? The kid grows up and 15 gets mad at you because there was no monster outside. All this time I thought there was a monster. No, we learn incrementally about what we're able to hear at a certain time. This is why there's such a big problem right now where people are upset that why are there so many healers and there's so many people bullshitting that they're shamans or they're this or they're that. There's someone for every level. Let's not judge people. I've had enough judgment in my life, being the skin color I am, you've got it, we've all, whatever stuff people have judged you on. The point is that there's something for everyone. There's a level of awareness or awakening, if you want to call it that, that happens at every turn. So you might have someone that you might think is, well, that person's not a real healer. Yeah, but they are opening doors for someone else. Now, depending on how argumentative the person you're talking to is, they might say, but they're spreading misinformation and misguiding. And I go, guess what? A lot of misinformation and misguidance led you to listening to this podcast right now. And now you're getting something good. You probably watched a lot of podcasts that weren't that good. And that led you, because your nose started to develop and that you can sniff out where you're supposed to go. And you landed here. And then maybe this will lead you somewhere else. And you'll be like, I don't need Emilio and Riz anymore. Okay, good. I'm glad. Happy to serve. I'll be busy doing something else also, so don't worry about it. The point is that a master assimilates, integrates, digests, regenerates from what they have received. There were great gurus out there who didn't eat or ate poison to show their students that, guess what? It's about I control the effect of what I take in. So how do we translate that now, Emilio, in this world where one might say right now there's more chaos than ever? How do I have peace in this? How do I have calm in this chaotic world? How do you have peace in general? How do you make peace with something? Is peace, your peace, up to them? Because there's people sitting in prison right now who are more at peace than some of the people who are watching right now. And guess what? They're not sick. They're not eating healthy food. They're not in a healthy environment. They don't really have healthy memories of past, present, and future. And they're in shape. They go, yeah, it's because they're lifting all day. Man, when people want to argue, they will come up with every reason to fight it because they don't want to say that peace is up to them. There are some people who are more calm and peaceful and healthy sitting in prison right now. Why? Well, because they're surrendered to their experience. No, it's not, I'm making the most. All right, I'm going to make the most of this life. That sounds like you're reaching up for something you barely get your head above water. I'm talking about actually being surrendered to this face, your skin, your voice, your creations, meaning you are creating this narrative. Then the argument becomes, no, I'm in a matrix. Well, you created the matrix. You agreed to be in the matrix, if there is a matrix. No, there's definitely a matrix. The matrix is a perspective. Remember that you are not a spiritual being having a human experience. You are a spiritual being having a spiritual experience. Clearly, because it's always coming down to how is your spirit. You see how much it takes just to wipe away all the barricades and little minefields just to get to thought that is not obstructed by really big contradictions. What are the contradictions? I said earlier, isn't God everything? Okay, then what is it, this thing about I have to be in the light and not the dark? Either God is everything or not. It's about where you're resisting or where you're flowing. You go, I'm not going to flow in the darkness. You're still stuck there. Some of the worst things that ever happened to you ended up being the most profound. What do I mean by worst? I mean by the worst feeling, most unpleasant. You have to make the distinction between right and wrong versus unpleasant and pleasant. So we say that was wrong. No, it was unpleasant. It doesn't mean it was wrong in the scope of your growth as a soul. You have to decide that for yourself, because if you don't decide that part for yourself, then everything is going to be about, is everything okay at this moment? Good. I hope it's going to be okay over there. Let me go over there. Is it okay here now? What do I need to watch out for? Then your life just becomes a series of survival episodes. And then you're going to decide what is spiritual and what is not.
We've looked at right now what's going on the planet, and you briefly mentioned this topic of peace, and that peace is essentially created from within. We look outside, we're seeing all this conflict, all these new wars that are coming out on the news. But one thing that's really interesting that I learned from you is that you've said that there's this new energy of the next generation of leaders that are coming in, that they want peace beyond all things, and the new souls that are being born on this planet. You even said that some of the most empathic souls right now are these Gen Z, millennial, and the following generations. So talk to us about what are we seeing with these new souls that are being born on the planet, and why now?
So I will say this. I think it's always been this way. There was a classic book written by Charles Dickens called A Tale of Two Cities. We used to have to read it in high school. Of course, I didn't read it. I read the Cliff Notes. There used to be something called Cliff Notes. And I read the first few pages, and then, I just barely passed. So I'm only talking about the first line, which I did read. And it said, it was the best of times and the worst of times. And that stayed with me, because I said, if I traveled back to 1976, 86, 96, and I said, is this true? Everyone would say yes. What about in the Viking times? Hey, Vikings, is this the best of times and the worst of times? And they would drink their mead and be like, oh, it is the best of times, brother, and the worst. Oh, okay. So it's always the best and always the worst. Okay. It's not perspective. It's actually true. You can see this feels terrible and that, Okay. So let's talk about it. Each generation bringing their own voice, their own frequency. Often it shows up in music. Notice that when you listen to a certain style or a couple of years of music, a lot of the singers sound the same. Listen to some of the singers that are out now. With all due respect to all these great singers, there's a certain tone, especially some of the female singers. Have you noticed that sing that bluesy kind of curvy kind of the way they sing, from the Billie Eilishes to ongoing. There's a certain style. Just like in the 80s, if you listen to a rock band, there was a certain style. And you can't really sing like that now and be popular, because the frequencies are different of what need to be transmitted to the planet. That's why musical genres cannot always be popular. They have much to do with the souls that are coming through and incarnating that have their own frequency. So Gen X had a certain frequency. I'm from Gen X, which was basically we had to be 30 when we were 10, and then when we were 30, we stayed 30. That's Gen X. You can't apply that to, my stepdaughters are 17 and have been with me since they were 4 and 5 years old. 4 of them. What I see in them is that they are, one might say, well, they're so weak and they're so snowflakey or whatever the words are that judge people. Oh, what do they say about us? What do they say about you who's watching right now? What did your parents think of your music? They said it's not really music. Most of them. They didn't like your style. What are you doing? How come you're not so serious? Why? When they were your age, they were doing this. And it's still going. We're still doing it. We expect more from them. But they don't rule the world. They're just one part of the world. They're just one demographic. So what's happening is they're coming in, especially those who are being labeled as autistic or being labeled as bipolar. Well, channelers like myself were labeled as schizophrenic, multiple personality disorders 200 years ago in a lot of the world. And I'm not saying that we're not. I'm just saying, no, it's probably not that.
He just hasn't taken the pills yet.
Exactly right. So what are we saying here? That which we don't understand, we say it's either magic or voodoo. It's one of my favorite examples, right? So here's this phone. There's my tarot card iPhone case. Okay, so what if we went back in time to Abraham Lincoln's time? Me and you, Emilio, and you who's watching, the three of us go. And we go into the Oval Office. He's one of the most intelligent men of the time. And it wasn't that long ago. Remember, they had cameras. And you try to explain to him how this works. Good luck. Tell him that this little metal box made of lead and glass, because iron and glass, how else would he classify it, is talking to a box flying around the planet, a satellite, and is showing a live transmission of your friend who's chilling out at the Great Wall of China and your other friend who's on Zoom who is sitting in Australia about to go snorkeling and show you what's at the bottom of the ocean. And another friend of yours who's about to deliver a baby by C-section and filming that. How would you explain that to Abraham Lincoln? Technically, we figured out frequency. We figure out how to make sound silent and send it through the air and then recreate it exactly in real time. We also can take what you know as a photograph, Mr. Lincoln, now we can make it move and send it through the air up to space and down. How would you, he's intelligent, he wouldn't be able to wrap his brain around that. So what's going to happen in 200 years from now? You go, AI. Let's not even just go there. Let's just say you can't even imagine because this iPhone never could have even been imagined. And then you're going to tell him, we're from the future, Mr. Lincoln, but not that far in the future. And he'd say, well, what planet are you from? We'd say, from here. He'd say, well, what about this thing that you made? Where'd you get the materials? We'd say, it was under our feet the whole time. Philosophically, now you would say, does that mean that the resources that I need to upgrade my inner technology also are under my nose at this very moment? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They're not tomorrow when you get the call or the email that tells you yes or no. They're not 6 months from now about where you live or what there. It's never there. It is now. Every resource you need now to achieve your peace is available to you now. It's not when your guy wins presidency. It's not whether he or she says yes or no to you. It is now. The resources are now. Why? Because your superpower is here. What's your superpower? Your sensitivity is your superpower. It has always been your superpower. Your favorite music is your favorite music because the person who wrote it and performed it was sensitive. Including your favorite food, including your favorite clothes, including your favorite movies and television. And your favorite everything was created by someone who was sensitive enough to transmit that to you. So that's what a shaman is. It isn't about beads and drums and chanting. It can be. But you could have a shaman experience just sitting on a couch having a conversation. We might be having one right now. If you decide it is, if you decide right now you are having a shamanic ceremony in this podcast, I guarantee you it will become that very quickly. You'll just have to scroll back and start over again and now approach it that you're about to have a shaman healing session just by listening to this podcast. You decide what everything is. Of course, if someone comes into the room and goes, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, what are they actually saying? They're not saying they hate you. What they actually are saying is, I'm hurt by what happened between us.
Mm.
That's the translation.
Yeah.
So you don't need to freak out when somebody is saying to you, I hate you and screw you and, cursing you out. You can be chill because you have to understand the translation of everything.
Words are just the costume.
And that costume can scare you or intrigue you. On Halloween, I got full dressed up as Count Chocula for Halloween. That was my costume. If you guys want to see me as Count Chocula, go to my Instagram and you'll see it. In fact, while we're talking, I'm probably going to pull up a picture of it to show you. Why? Well, because I love my costume, and two, because I like to make a point out of something. Halloween was considered the time of Samhain, which was a Celtic commemoration of a point in time, October 31st, November 1st, when the veil between worlds was thinnest. That was the understanding that this was a time where the so-called dead could be communicated with. That's when they could be communicated with. So if you're thinking about that, okay, here you go, here's a picture. So this is me as Count Chocula.
Hey, what?
Yeah.
That's insane.
I was out on the street in Toluca Lake putting cereal in people's bowls or their bags. And there were thousands of people walking around in costume. And I was saying to people, oh, you forgot about your Count Chocula, your favorite old friend. And they were like, grown men were saying to me, Count Chocula, no, I didn't forget about you. I swear. We were buds. And I go, and then we put a little thing, and the grown men with their kids were doing that, and kids were doing it. For me, that was the fun of Halloween, which was, that's part of, if one were to say, well, what are the shamanic things that you do? That was a shaman ceremony. Because I was helping people to get back to an innocence. You can do it in so many ways. There's so many people watching that want to develop their spiritual gifts. But your spiritual gifts don't have to be in the new age holistic service providing world. There's sometimes I meet people who want to study to be a psychic medium with me, and I do teach how to develop that, or they want to learn how to be a shaman, which is very difficult. Why? Because I say you just have to be a shaman at what you're good at. So sometimes people come to me and they're studying with me in the middle of halfway through their training. I go, you just want to be a stand-up comedian. You don't want to do what I'm doing. You don't. You think you do, but you don't. You actually want to just be a stand-up comedian. Transmit your shamanic energy through that. Oh, you mean make jokes about spirituality? No.
Put two and two together.
You can tell any jokes. You can tell the most ghetto, messed up jokes that you want, curse all you want, and you'll still be giving shamanic energy because you can shift the mood of a person into something lighter, brighter.
That's alchemy. Right there.
Thank you. So, when we talk about the iPhone and we talk about upgrading technology, that's what the purpose of channeling is about. So when we channel in a little bit and the spirit guides come through for everybody, their purpose is to help you connect the dots of your life that you are co-creating so that you can understand how to receive the magic of every situation. I use the word magic. I didn't say the word have the most fun or have the most pleasurable experiences, because magic can be experienced even when somebody dies. I've experienced it, lost the 3 people closest family members to me, including a best friend who took his own life. Did I find a magic in it? Yes, it wasn't a happy kind of magic. It was a deep, penetrating kind of magic. In fact, it put me on the path that I am. If that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be getting the opportunity to be here with you guys. I get something very deep and fulfilling out of it. Hopefully you will get something out of it. But that's how I took it in. So your spirit guides are not here to give you what you want. If that's the case and you're going to quit religion and go to new age thinking, just stick to religion and just keep asking the saints and the angels to help you. Because there's an old saying in spirituality, and it is, People turn to God when their foundations are shaking, only to discover that it is God who is shaking them.
Ooh.
Please help me out of this situation. Just make this thing better. But they're the one who made the situation happen. Why are you asking that? Are you begging for mercy? Who's doing this? So you're asking God to help you out of a bad situation when God created that bad situation. So now are you just begging for them to stop? Is that what you mean by begging God for mercy? This is going to get very confusing. Instead of understanding that you and the divine source energy are one, co-creating, you might say together, even though you're one, it's all together as one. Then you get into, well, are we going to talk about what life itself is? We're going to try. I would say that it is the constant awareness that exists forever. That is what you actually are. You are not your mind. You are not your personality. You're certainly not your body. Wait, I'm not my mind? No, because you can change it. It's not your mind. Those are your thoughts. You're not your thoughts. You're not your personality. Your personality can change too. You are the awareness that can alter, change anything at any time. That's what you are. Run it through your system and notice it time and time again. Every time you incarnate, you're being someone else. What if you don't believe in reincarnation? Well, then why are you watching this show?
Yeah, wrong
You
show.
need to scroll down, bro. This ain't the one. This ain't the one. So how deep do you want to go? The channelers that are out there in the world, everybody channels something. So before we start to channel, I'd like to, Emilio, go over the definition of channeling.
Yeah, for sure.
IMHO. Okay. So channeling is, the word channel is the same word at the root level as the word canal. Canal, channel. It's the same root in different languages. What is a canal? You have the Suez Canal. You have the English Channel. They are passageways cut through the land to allow a new body of water to come through where ships can go and drop off goods and services and keep going. That's what a canal or a channel is. Now, when it comes to psychic mediumship, a channeler is a person who channels the spirit guides information that serves the people, and then it flows through them. Some people channel by writing. Some people just channel by repeating things. Then we have what are called full trance channels. That means that those channelers are able to go into a deep meditative state. We call that the trance. In that experience, you might say that what I do is I do a complete surrender. And I allow someone to take over the steering wheel of this body, this voice. So many times spirit guides will come through. They have their own way of speaking. Some have an English accent. You go, well, how could they have an English accent? You said that they all don't have an ethnicity. Yeah, but they choose a certain avatar version of themselves that they like. Red Eagle comes through. I'm the dot kind of Indian, not the feather kind of Indian. Interestingly enough, though, my ancestors are Mongolian, which is the same place that Native Americans come from. You know that, right?
I did not.
Well, Mongolians, you know what they are? They're the ones
Yeah.
that the throat singing, the whoa, that kind of stuff. All feathers, all hawks, all about owls. Eyes are a little bit more slanted than mine, my skin color. The Mongolians are the ancestors of the Native Americans. Listen to their language. So the Mongolians were crossed over the bridge from Siberia into Alaska and came down. Okay? This already, by the way, DNA has already proved this.
Yeah.
They've done DNA tests on Native Americans. They're Mongolian. They descend from Mongolians. I descend from Mongolians. So I do see sometimes when Red Eagle comes through, I go, oh, it's going back there. Maybe there's some connection where we knew each other. Doesn't even matter. They choose, like Red Eagle, when he comes through, he's like this elder that comes through and people go, he's a Native American spirit guide. Not really. He had one lifetime where he was a Native American, but he also had a lifetime where he looked like you, and he looked like you, Emilio, and he looked like my third grade teacher at one point too in a different lifetime. He told me once that he said I was a 10-year-old Russian blind girl.
Even
That was
looks
a
like
very
a
prominent
tree
lifetime.
sometimes, you said.
He looks like a tree. I've seen him in plant medicine ceremonies. He looks like half of a tree. So I don't get too distracted by the accent of the spirit guides. It's very kind of intriguing and mesmerizing when you see a full trance channel because of the way the accent is and the way they talk, and it's very animated. And I like that part. It's part of the whole transmission, but I don't get distracted by it. I'm very interested in the information, and I encourage people nowadays to do that, to listen to the information, listen to the logic at the same time. Listen with your feelings, listen with your body, listen with your energy, listen with your aura about what's coming through. Spirit guides are not here to speak to you the way that you think they should speak to you. They're here to speak to you the way that they feel they should speak to you. Again, you are the receiver, and try to understand that. Spirit guides are not angels that you pray to make everything all right. They are there to help you become more sensitive. They work on your superpower, your sensitivity, to help you to be able to hear and see and understand and define, translate signs around you. They are here to help you upgrade your inner technology, not to give it to you. So, that being said,
let's get into it.
You want to get into it?
Let's get right into it.
I got to have a glass of water because they're going to be in here for a while, so... They do drink water, though. It's interesting because...
I've seen it.
Yeah, they do drink because you want to know why? It's not that they need the water. They're driving a car, and the car is running out of gas. They got to put the gas in the car.
Got to put the fuel in. So they're not going to eat a burger.
Oh, like my Burger King commercial? Before we got to tell that story.
Do it.
I'm a very serious channeler. I like to make jokes, guys, because I'm from the Bronx and that's just the way I am. But when it comes to channeling, I'm really quite serious about that. And of course, here's a spiritual teaching for you guys. So, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, I'm going to make the long story short. So Burger King was shooting a commercial for a ghost Whopper. They put it out for Halloween. It's a fun thing. And somehow they contacted me, and they did a lot of all these different ways to contact me. And I was blowing it off left and right. There were clients who work in the television industry who were like, listen, Burger King's looking for you. They want a channeler for this commercial. And I said, no. 3 different people who don't even know each other sent me this request for me to be in this commercial. I was like, I'm not going to channel for Burger King. I like Burger King. I'm not going to channel for Burger King. It's just ridiculous. I'm a very serious channeler. Don't they know? And they're like, yes, they actually know, and that's why they want you. I was like, okay. So then finally someone who I know one or more personnel told me about it. And they said, I saw the script. It's really funny. And Riz, you always tell me to have a sense of humor about things. I'm like, I hate when they throw your own teachings back in your own face. That's the worst, isn't it? And then I go, you're right. I do say to have fun with yourself. And they said, maybe your spirit guide sent this to you. I'm like, you're really slick trying to get me to do this commercial. Now you're going to bring the spirit guides in that they want me to do it. And I thought for myself, how much does it pay? No, I thought well, this is the 3D Earth, right?
We talking couple thousand. What are we talking?
Yeah, it was good. Let me tell you, it was Burger King money is good, right? So I decided I was going to do it. I did read the script. It was hilarious. I had some conditions. I said, if I can give real readings, because it was kind of sort of like pranking people. Mm-hmm. And the spirit guide was going to eat the ghost Whopper. It's somewhere, it might be on my website, somewhere online. You could look it up. It's a really funny commercial. And I did it. That was another way that I teach as a shaman, is that I wanted you to know that life is short. Take everything seriously, but don't also at the same time, don't take everything seriously.
Yeah. And eat a burger while you're at it.
And eat a burger if you want, or have a vegan burger if you want. But the whole point is that you meditate and do your spiritual work so that you can celebrate. You don't celebrate so that you can meditate. It's the other way around. The whole point of the meditation is that you start celebrating your life, even when your life so-called sucks. Meaning, even when times are hard, that there's a part of you that still celebrates being alive. Because you have to. Otherwise, then there's no point. So the guides come and certainly help me, my family, to remember. My wife is a shaman also. And the guidance of these spirit guides have made our life more fulfilling, our children's lives more fulfilling, our friends, and our clients, students, whatever you want to call them, our tribe. So I'm happy to channel for you guys. I do know that Phineas is going to come through, and perhaps Reddy will come through. I don't know who's going to come through first. Maybe only one, but let's just flow. Channeling is where you get out of the way, guys. Remember I was talking about what a channeling the canal, so you're just getting out of the way.
Empty the vessel.
Yeah, I'm blow my nose. They might have to blow my nose for me. Who knows? They got to take care of the car, right? While it's running. If it starts to sputter, they better take care of it. Are we ready?
We are.
I'm just going to kind of lean back a little bit, if that's still good for you guys. Okay. There's no big elaborate rituals that you guys have to do. All I would say is that if you want to participate in being in this transmission in a little bit of a deeper way, I ask you to close your eyes, everyone, with me. Drop your shoulders. Release any tension in your face, in your jaws, in your teeth, in your tongue, in your lips, in your forehead, your eyebrows, your ears, and slow it down. We've been talking a lot. Now we're going to slow it down. And I want you to just become more comfortable and grounded into where you're sitting or laying down. And if your arms are crossed or legs are crossed, please just open them and allow these energies to flow through, and surround yourself with light. Imagine a beautiful light at the point between your eyebrows, your crown chakra and third eye chakra together glowing. A beautiful indigo and violet color all across your forehead, expanding into a circle of light, extending into infinity everywhere, blessing everyone and everything in its path, north, south, east, and west, and all directions in between. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And let that light just soothe you. Let's take a deep breath in together, in through the nose. Hold the breath at the top and blow it out. You can open your eyes, and here we go. I'll see you later. I'm Phineas.
Welcome.
Is the written word alive? The written word would be that which you, as a scribe, write into the paper. Now you have digital technology, and you are still creating characters upon the screen. That is your written language that is most often used. Now you are not so much using your writing instruments of pens and pencils. You are typing in to an interface that is creating the language, the words upon the screen. They are formed by light. The computer, the device that you are receiving this transmission on, has a brain, a chip. Inside the chip, there is a crystal. It is made from nature. That crystal, that silicon, is either receiving light or not. It is the basis of binary code. Are you familiar?
Yes.
And so either the light is flashing on or off. That is simplified in this explanation of how your brains of your devices work. The processor. And for every movement that occurs, for every bit of data that the lens of this camera is receiving or the microphones are receiving, and then for that information to be projected to where the viewer or the listener is happening almost instantaneously. And various processes are happening at a very high rate of speed within this device. and that chip and the crystal inside of that chip is flashing on or off many, many, many times. In a way, it is very signifying of Morse code. You had languages and dots and dashes, is that correct? That was the way that you used Morse code, dots and dashes, another form of binary code. That was your language to get messages across. And then from there, from these inventions of Mr. Samuel Morse, you now have this device, and you are receiving information. That information, which is being transmitted to you through these devices, flying through air, is reaching you, and then upon you seeing it upon your screen, hearing it with your ears, it then has to travel through your own system, your own technology, to be received through the very sensitive receptors in your ears and the receptors in your eyes. And that signal then, the auditory signal, then travels to your brain so that you may understand the words that are being spoken to you in this moment. Now, the term "in this moment" is a very vague term. It is not entirely accurate, is it? For the sound that you feel you are hearing in this current moment is not actually being heard in this moment. The sound must reach your ears. Even if it was a sound that was happening in the room that you are sitting in right now, it would take time. Let us say that something dropped off of the table. That sound then has to travel through the ear to your ears, through the air to your ears, then to travel to your brain. Then your brain must process, the vase fell off the table. And so that sound is traveling at a measurable rate. You call it the speed of sound, and yet many things travel faster than the speed of sound. So it is rather slow. You are hearing the sound of the vase dropping off of the table, or the words coming from our mouth at the moment, a little bit after the fact. This is proven to you by your own physical science, isn't it? Sounds travel at a certain speed. So you're not hearing anything in the moment. What about what you see? Same principle. You're only able to see the reflection of light. Take away all sources of light and you will not see. You are in the dark. If there is absolutely no type of light, you will remain in the dark. You will not be able to see. And so that which you are staring at on your phone or computer at this moment is not happening in the moment. Even if you were to look at your own hand at this moment, you are not seeing your hand in the precise moment, because again, the light must reflect off of your hand to bounce back into your receptors and be processed. So it is not in the moment ever. You are not hearing in the moment, and you are not seeing in the moment. This is factual. So what is in the moment? Is what you feel in the moment. But what you feel in the moment is referring usually to what you have experienced in the past or the future. You say, but this is happening to me now. This experience is happening to me now. But is the experience defined by what you hear or see? We have already proven to you that you are not experiencing anything in the physical sense in the now. Even if you were to prick your finger, it would take time for your pain receptor to feel it. And so you wish to be present. It seems to be the thrust, the trajectory that you are on, doing your spiritual work, as you call it. Much of what you wish to experience, that which is highly pleasurable or excitable to you, is so that you feel alive, whether it is jumping off of a plane, or having physical relations with another person, or to engage in some sort of game. Let us say it is a video game. In that moment, you feel very present. All of your senses are focused. Why do you wish for that? See, your pleasures that you wish to experience, underlying that desire is actually the desire to become free of your mind and its tendency to focus on that which does not exist, the past or the future. So you wish to become more present. But you see, to be more present, you must remove that which clouds your perspective and your vision. You must redefine what you see. You must approach what you see from a different foundational belief. We call this belief or system of beliefs your core beliefs. Your core beliefs about reality. They are undermining or strengthening your experience here on Earth. Well, are you only here on Earth, or are you a multidimensional being? Multidimensional being does not mean that you can play the ukulele and also you can make a sandwich and also you know the theory of relativity. That is not multidimensional. Those are bits of knowledge and skill that you can learn. Multidimensionality is that you exist simultaneously across many timelines. And that many times when you are experiencing such things as déjà vu, those are, simply put, bleed-throughs of various timelines. At this very moment, there is a version of you that is not listening to this transmission, that decided to do something else. And another version of you that is half listening, and another version of you that perhaps is a bit different physically than this one. You have experienced this yourself. You need not simply believe or trust what we are saying, but look to your own experience. Many times in your dreams, as you tell the dream to a friend the following day, you might say to that person, "You were in my dream, but you were not you. And I was there with you, but I was not me. And we were in my mother's home. But it was not her home. But it was." Emilio, have you experienced something similar in your dreams?
Yes, definitely.
Indeed, as have all. It is you and was your mother's home in a slightly different dimension. Why do we say slightly? Is it different or not? It is different. It is another dimension, but the changes are slight. And so the essence of your friend being your friend but was not your friend in the dream, meaning did not look like he or her, the physical surroundings, essence was your mother's home, but it did not reflect physically to be items that you recognized as her home, that you know in this dimension. And so these experiences continue. Why is it important to know? It is important to know because many have thought they have gone insane, or that their thoughts are incorrect, or their feelings, or their gut intuition. You see, the senses beyond your 5 physical senses, which are based, of course, on not being in the present moment, every physical sense can only be perceived by the rate of speed that stimuli reaches your brain, even if it is a fragrance. We have proven it to you with seeing and with hearing. What about tasting? It takes time for that to reach. What about touching? It takes time for that sensation to move through your fingers and up to your brain. All of your physical 5 senses are in the past. But your 6th sense is not. Here is where you can breathe and take a breath now. Rest your foundation here in just this feeling of what we have told you. Simply breathe. Do not overthink it. Just feel whatever it is that you are feeling. It could be a sense of surrender. It could be something opening. It could be an excitement, an intensity. Allow it. You need not figure it out. You are a programmable being. That is your blessing, not your curse. For if you are programmable, it means that you are reprogrammable and deprogrammable. Good for you. This is your strength. It is perhaps the truth of what you are. As the channeler earlier had said, you are pure awareness. And so when that awareness that you are, not that you have, You have heard others say that you are a soul, you do not have a soul. Now you are a soul, and you can have soul, as you can see by some artists who sing. You say that they truly have soul when they sing. What they are saying is they are singing from them true selves, known as the soul. They are singing from their true selves, which is as a soul. Therefore, their voice seems to have soul. They are showing soul. And so, do you have any questions?
As you mentioned how there is a delay of time from things from the external world to reach our senses, and our sixth sense is not necessarily tied to that delay, how can we utilize our sixth sense then to create more of the reality that we desire and to create heaven on earth?
Now, to understand creation, you might say that perfection is the true state of things. As you are navigating through physical existence, you are saying, this is good and that is bad, that is right and that is wrong. Those are mostly based upon the emotional experience of something for someone. You find it very clearly in your politics. In the political arena, there are those who feel if candidate A is in office, then it will be a hellish experience for the country. They believe this to the point of willing to be violent. Others may believe that if candidate B rises to that office, then that will create the hellish experience. There are those who believe that certain things must be eradicated from the planet in order for there to be peace. But it may not be the same things that another person feels. You are in a dimension, a planet, a plane of existence that is very much a school of many different kinds of people, souls, awarenesses, that are very diverse, not in their skin color, but in, you might say, the interests of why they are here. Some feel they are here to get what they want. Others will become seekers and forever seek and rarely discover. There are others who feel they are here to be warriors. They have come to infiltrate the matrix and to spread light. Really? Then you are denying that you had any choice, that all of you and us did not create this for our own selves. You are saying that there is a separate reality that is good. There are certain things that have been corrupted, and so now you must go and fix them. At the same time, you continue to say that all is God. Is it or is it not? If all is divine, then that conflicts with when you say this is wrong. That is not divine. If that is happening, then this is not divine. We do not have heaven here on earth. Then what is heaven? If you were to define it, one might say that when everyone is getting along, we do not have disease, nor poverty, nor crime. No one is harming anyone else ever. Well, it depends on what you mean by harm. One might say that by eating plants, I'm not harming the animals. Well, you certainly are harming the microorganisms that are sitting on that plant. But you do not consider them to be sentient beings, and you say, well, I have to draw the line somewhere. And so you will decide that eating this way is more spiritual than another. And then there will be arguments from those who are carnivores who will say, well, I can prove to you scientifically that it is more harmful for us to use the planet for vegetable farming than it is for meat farming. And then the other side, of course, will come back with their own evidence, and then they continue and continue as they have and still are, aren't they? What is heaven on earth? That you get what you want? Let us ask the average person. When you die and go to heaven, let us describe what happens, since you are referring to it as heaven. Heaven is where there is all peace. Can you have anything you want there? Yes. Can you have it at any time? Yes. Can you have as much of it as you want and not have any consequences? Yes. It is pure heaven. All things are possible. But what is at the root of it is that all your needs and desires are satisfied. Do you really think that is heaven? Sounds more a bit like the other place. That you always know that you're going to win, that you always will get what you want, exactly how you want it, when you want it, with whom you want it, for as long as you want it. You might get bored of that. You certainly get bored on your wonderful vacations that you take. 2 weeks in paradise is quite enough, isn't it? And God forbid that the flights are cancelled back to your hellish busy life. Oh, well, my dear, we have to stay another day in this paradise. And you will post on your social media, well, the flights are cancelled. We are, unfortunately, stuck, quote unquote, here in paradise. Life is good. Things could be worse. Blessings to all, and to all a good night. But what if all the flights are cancelled now? It is a week in this paradise. And you cannot get home. And now you are sick of them bringing you fruity drinks with umbrellas in them, and you do not want another massage, and you do not wish to see another sunset, and you do not wish another pair of slippers and a robe. You need to go back to the struggle. And you will then resign yourself. You might even threaten to sue this paradise hotel that you are staying at. Might even sue the airlines that brought you there safely when you wanted to go there. Now you will curse them for their terrible customer service and write your reviews because you could not get back to your busy life when you wanted to. Very clear example, isn't it? One you can easily picture. And that is the nature that you are dealing with of most. I want what I want when I want it, for as long as I want it, how I want it, with whom I want it. And you call that freedom. Many of your inspirational teachers are telling you that is the life of freedom. Is it really? Freedom would be that you are able, at this very moment, to go from a not-so-good feeling place within you to a much better feeling place within you without moving a muscle, without needing anyone or anything to change to fit into your idea of heaven. Because your idea of heaven will not be another's, ever, for that is not what this place clearly is. You are hoping it is. You may fight to the very last day of your physical life that it is, that I may leave this world better for those after. Well, good for you. Do you believe that the earth is here to exist forever?
No.
Do you really? You believe the earth should be here forever. That is a very long time for an organism. Do you think that if the earth were to suddenly explode, that life is over for all the conscious beings, the dolphins, that you so wish to protect? The dolphins that you see in all of their glory are showing you but their pinky toe of their entire essence. The dolphins, even after the planet explodes, shall be swimming in the cosmic consciousness in utter bliss, as they already are, and always have been. And you as awareness and consciousness shall create another planet, or not. Maybe you shall exist in simply an etheric energy. But maybe the planet is etheric energy. Maybe, since you have physical senses that are limited, only perceive the planet with those physical senses, and you believe that is it. There are sounds you cannot hear. You blow the dog whistle, and the dog will react, and you will not. Will you accuse the dog of faking it? No. And so there are healers and mediums and channelers who are hearing the frequency of their spirit guides and are transmitting it. There are artists that are hearing the frequencies and visualizations of the work of art and then bring that through. Many of them will say that they are channeling when they are creating their art. And so if you wish for some version of heaven on earth, you say, but I don't want the suffering to happen. We understand what you mean. But you cannot end there. You must go further. It cannot end with you simply want what you want, even if you believe it is best for everyone. That is not what happens in a family. If you have been married and raised children and you have family meetings, that is not how it goes. Even if the head of the family decides this is what is best for everyone, the stories of those children who grow up to be adults beg to differ that it was for the best of everyone, the decision of the one person. Now, this can become very depressing for people. Are you saying, Phineas, that you are, and we are, floating randomly in existence and nothing matters? We don't have to worry about the earth since it's not going to be here forever. We are not saying that to you. We are saying to you, it is best to take care of what you have as you are to the best of your ability. But there comes a point where you also must be able to understand the larger picture. Why? Because you are seeking the larger picture constantly. You are seeking soul evolution and more freedom constantly. Self-mastery is your ability to take yourself from a low vibrational place to a high vibrational place. That means a state of being without anyone needing to do or change. As you are awakening, no one else needs to change. For you begin to see God happening all the time without any of your definitions. You say, how do I apply that to the atrocities in the world? You are in a school. You are consistently going to see, is this how we continue? This seems to be in error. This seems to be in resistance. This seems to be based on fear and struggles for power. When people have surrendered to peace as their power. It is interesting, you have had many wonderful quotes throughout time, and you had your freedom fighter, Mr. Gandhi, who said that there were endless causes that he was willing to die for, but not one that he was willing to kill for. You may sit with that for a moment. He would rather simply leave his physical body than to harm another. You say, well, I'm not going to do that. Well, then you do not have to. But you may at least consider there is another perspective. As you bow your head to God all around you in every moment, how do you achieve that when you are so busy trying to navigate what is right and what is wrong, what is spiritual and what is not? What is spiritual music? That which moves the spirit and frees it. Oh, I thought it was supposed to be a flute. No, it does not have to be. What you prefer, what works for you. But studies have shown that certain vibrations are damaging to the cells. The great Dr. Emoto proved this with his messages from the water. Are you familiar?
Yes.
Oh dear. Well, we would like to relay the information and the messages from him on the other side about where this work would have grown. He laid the foundation, but there was a part two. The difference between the water and you. Yes, you are made of water, primarily. The difference is that the consciousness of the receiver was never taken into consideration. That means that you can heal yourself with punk rock music or your gangster rap music just as much as a piece of classical music, because you find freedom and love and regeneration in the energy for you. It will not damage your cells. There are many who will say that those forms of music that Dr. Emoto said would damage you, they would state quite factually that that type of music saved their life. Can you see that?
It's all perspective.
That would be a very tepid way of saying it. Perspective is a truth. We agree with you. But to bring more life into your experience and your transmission of language, to bring more color and vibrancy and potency and virility to what you transmit, honors it more. Why would you want to honor things more? Because as you honor things more, you are being more true to your nature, which is to want more. You see, all of you want more, even when you want less. Even when you wish to get rid of everything because you want less, it is because you want more. You want less of this and more of that. Get rid of all your possessions. It will be because you want more, not less. It is just more of something else. And what about those who say, I'm fine with what I have? I do not want more. Well, would you like it in the next 5 seconds? That means you want more. How about in the next 2 hours? Would you still like to be comfortable sitting where you are? Would you like to be comfortable in 3 hours, maybe in your bed? Then you want more. All the time. It is because you are creation itself, and creation must expand. You cannot simply rest on the statement, I simply want peace on earth, heaven on earth. Are these words interchangeable? Perhaps. And what about celebration, as you two mentioned earlier, celebration being a very high frequency, perhaps higher than peace? As the world joins together in celebration, each and every soul and person together, in celebration, the vibration would be quite high. It would be a different vibration for them to sit all together at the same time, everyone on earth, and meditate. A very different vibration. But we certainly can tell you, you would have more fun if all of you were celebrating together. How do you achieve this? When will it be achieved? Well, my friends, what date in time would satisfy you? If we told you by Earth years it will take 1,500 years, or 15,000 years, and a lot more pain shall happen between now and then, would it depress you or excite you? What if we told you it will take 500,000 years? Will it depress you? Have we taken your peace away? Or will you then say, no, you have not taken my peace away, I will continue to fight the good fight? That is your choice, to fight. As you change the words to describe what you are doing, from fighting to creating, from warrior and seeker to creator and discoverer, from a seeker to a person who's constantly discovering. In this moment you are discovering. Look over there and try to discover something. Look over there now and try to discover something. You can do it at this moment, right now. What prevents you from this? It is worth diving into that question, because your enlightenment is not in 2 weeks or even 2 hours. It is here. It will always be in the now. And so what separates you from that? You need more information. We are back to more. All right then. You need more information. Exactly what information do you need to know? If you are alone in this universe, are there extraterrestrials? If we tell you yes, you might be satisfied. Or you might say, I hope so. Or you might say, incorrect. Or you might say, well, let me look and see on the internet what others say, before you decide what you think. And for all you know, the voice you are hearing at this very moment is your own. You do not know if it is or it is not. You do not know if this entire experience you call your life from birth to this very moment has been a dream or not. It could be one very long dream, or nightmare, or both. Or you may find peace by saying, it has always been now. Every moment has been now. And in that now, what you say, my sixth sense is not subject to the laws of the past, present, or future. Within my sixth sense, because it is feeling-based, it is pure awareness, I can receive various bits of information and have a very free and loose perspective on events that have occurred in my life. There are many of those who share their stories of going to the other side and telling you what it's like. And there may be great authenticity and truth in their experience, but it does not mean that that is all. Perhaps they were only visiting one part of the amusement park. You might go to Disneyland and enter through the south entrance and see what is there and ride the rides and have a wonderful meal and go home, not knowing that there were 6 other entrances to the park and different themes in those lands. It is possible. It is not to say that your experience is not true, or that someone needs to doubt you, or to think that you don't know all of the truth because you only went in one part of the park. You do not need to be vindictive that way. Just keep it in mind that there is always more, and that all the information that you get, you can bring in if it brings you more surrendered to understand that perfection is occurring at every moment. Even when you die, you as a soul will say, that was perfect, no matter how it happens. Now, others around you may not feel that way. If it was unexpected, if it was through violence, if it was through painful disease, they will say it was not supposed to happen this way. But you yourself will know it was, and is fine. Because in a sense, you would have graduated. No matter how you leave this earth, you shall graduate. None of you are ever alone. How do you know this to be true? Do you even believe it? Well, we'll tell you that most people who take their own lives have felt that they were alone, that they were not loved. And yet that is not true. As you know, some of you have known those who have taken their lives. Perhaps you even have attempted yourself. Perhaps you are a spirit watching this transmission, not in a physical body. You see, the possibilities are endless, but there was something that was missing, and that's why certain actions were taken. You are on a never-ending experience of the now. That means that you may die 10,000 times, but you will always be living. You do not need to let this information exhaust you. It can free you. That once you know that you are here forever, you may let that part of you go that is waiting for some resolution or conclusion. And then you will become more relaxed, even into the very physical cells of your being. And you will energetically slow down, but perhaps not even physically. That means that your mind, the way that you worry, will disappear. That type of slowing down. You may still have great amount of physical vitality. In fact, you might even have even more physical vitality and energy after you let go of that old belief. And that is what we are referring to as your foundational core beliefs. Is life a life-draining experience, or is life itself a regenerative experience? Up to you to decide, and then to work with that, you see. Bless you.
Bless you.
Be well.
Thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you. That never gets old, waking up from that.
What's it like coming back?
Yeah, let me sit up for a second. It's funny, my cat is sitting here. Every time I channel, my cat shows up. It's so funny. She wasn't here when we started.
No, and I heard her like meow, during the.
Oh, really? So
she made her presence known.
Right. Animals are in that state, always, of that spiritual state, you might say. Especially cats. More so than I feel more so than other animals, and I think that's why the Egyptians loved them so much and understood that about them.
Let's talk about Egypt.
Let's talk about it. What do we say after Phineas, except for I need to scroll back and listen to that again?
Oh, yes, well, I'll give my quick thoughts on. I just felt like he's just this. Like I just felt like I was having tea with an ultra wise sage. That wow. Like what
He's
a riff.
Like the professor. I call him the professor that you're having tea with. And I listen to him and I go, if I had just had you growing up from kindergarten onwards, man, we would have had this podcast at 10 years old. I'd be 10-year-old Riz, you'd be 10-year-old Emilio. We'd be like, all right, let's talk about reality.
So what's the process like, Riz, when you're going to do a channeling session or a transmission? Who gets to decide who comes through? Is that something that you have a conscious choice over?
Yes. So there are what I call, everyone has a spirit guide. I call them your spirit team. In that team, this is how I have experienced it. It's all I'm sharing with you. I'm never here to go, this is the way it is, and just make that law. I'm just telling you how I have explored. I'm kind of like, I've just gone further up the trail and I'm coming back to tell you guys what I've seen. So I feel that I've noticed that there are spirit guides that stay with you your whole life. And then there are those who come in like as temps who come in for certain projects. Mm-hmm. It really has happened to me. So there are the main guides, like Red Eagle is one of my main guides. Phineas is one of my main guides. And I always can rely on them being around to come through. I've done over 2,500 public channeling events. They're called the Circle of Light. You guys can go to my website, see videos, and my YouTube channel of all of those things.
You got the reps in.
Yes, exactly. I got all those reps in, right? Seriously, high intensity training. And they always show up. Now, there have been a lot of different guides. I have a whole list of all the different guides that I've channeled on my website that only came through once or twice. And I was never expecting it. Spirit guides that are with us, I've noticed, sometimes they have to do with like, what does the channeler himself or herself interested in life? I've always considered myself a bit of a philosopher, and also like I've very much been into popular culture and grew up with a lot of music. I was a musician myself and an artist, and I could always see the spiritual power of different artists. So I'm not surprised that I will get these very out of the box kind of spirit guides talking to me. Because some people will say, if it was a contemporary person, they'll go, that's not a spirit guide. I go, well, who told you that? So someone says to me, Colonel Sanders is not a spirit guide. I go, how do you know?
I mean, if they're passed over, they're in spirit form.
They're in spirit, and they did something interesting. Like, people go, no, but that was Colonel Sanders had made junk food. No, when Colonel Sanders was alive, he wasn't making junk food. He was just trying to provide a chicken dinner, what he considered a good old American dinner, to people for a low price and help them. That's how he thought of it. He was an older guy. This was what he believed in. Mm-hmm. Was this very church-going guy. Like, he had his own version of spirituality. And I love that he had his whole look together. Like, he knew who he was on this planet, okay? He knew who he was.
Yeah.
And it was just one lifetime. He's a soul. And he was trying to convey that when you believe in something, it doesn't matter what age you are. He's like, I made it after 40 years old. And he conveyed that image, those messages to me. So I actually have an oracle deck coming out. It's many of the guides that I channel.
Yeah.
And there's all this beautiful artwork with a message from each of them. And Colonel Sanders is in one
He's
of the
got
cards.
one.
He's got one. I'm gonna send a deck to you. Okay?
Tesla's got one.
I'm gonna give. Yeah, I got Tesla in there. I'm gonna gift you a deck. Okay.
Appreciate that.
You, of course. So the guides come through. I want to talk to you guys about how spirit guides are around you. When we start to see little coincidences, the numbers show up. I keep seeing 444, Riz. I don't know. I don't understand. It was 444 was on the treadmill. Then I walked outside. It was in the parking lot. And I looked at a car that said 444 on the license plate. What does that mean? I go, here's what I think it means. I think the universe is going like, we with you. I got you. I got you, bro. That's what the universe is saying. I'm here with you. You made it on time. You're not in the past. You're not in the future. You're right here. You're locking in right now. And it's a reminder and a little nod. I call it a nod and a wink from the universe to you. Then part 2 is look up those numbers. If it says 444, look up, go on the internet. It's free information out there. Look up numerology. Go to the site. Say, what does 444 mean? Remember, 4 itself has a number. It could be 535, whatever the numbers are. Look up the significance of those numbers on a good numerological website. Then add up those numbers. So 4444 together. Okay. You go, what is that? Oh, 4 plus 4 is 8 plus 4 is 12. I go, right? But it's actually 3 because 12, 1 plus 2 equals 3. Get it down to a single digit. So now look up what the significance of number 3 is. So there's the messages through numbers. Why? Because numbers are how we define frequencies. We assign a number to a frequency. That's 432 hertz. Okay, what does that mean? That means per second that thing is vibrating 432 times per second. That's what that means. Oh, okay. Now we're clear? Okay, good. So frequencies. They're frequencies you hear, frequencies that as you become more sensitive, you start to feel more. So your spirit guides speak on a frequency that is not the same frequency I'm talking to you on right now. When they're around you, they'll speak through symbols, through signs, through a feeling, maybe something through nature that I'm there, like I'm here. Okay. What else? When the spirit guides are around you, when they want to come through you, whether it's through automatic writing, whether it is through stream of consciousness, you're just speaking, whether it's through a task, like you're doing something, but you feel like there's an extra hand helping you do this task. The more sensitive you are, the more powerful you will be. So right when Phineas comes through, like he's very much like his energy is so upfront, he never is at a loss for words. Like I'll be at a loss for words, but Phineas is never at a loss for words. He's right there. I feel that is it's such a strong energy, and so for me to let him through, when I go into my state, like when you first saw me going in, all I'm doing is I'm becoming very sensitive. I'm becoming almost like a little kid. Like inside my heart gets very soft. My heart just goes, I don't know, just imagine as vulnerable as you can be. And I've practiced that to go into my heart space of being really vulnerable. And right then and there, it's like I feel this little touch on my shoulder. Now, a little touch like that quiet on my shoulder, I may not even feel. If I'm looking this way and someone touches me that lightly, I might not even feel it. But if I'm waiting for it and I'm really sensitive, it's like that intention changes the frequency around my body.
You merge with it.
Yes. Yes. It touches me like, oh, there he is. Now I just felt the touch of the spirit guide. Now what do? Oh, now you got to go double your sensitivity. Now you got to go in all the way. What do I compare it to? I'll try to compare it to like this. Let's say you had a grandma that really loved you. Some of us didn't. We never got the grandma. But imagine it like you did, like what everybody talks about, the amazing grandma. And she hugs you when you're upset. You're hurt and you're trying to cry. And your grandma hugs you. And then she's like, no, baby, just let it out. And then you really let it out. Now she's already got you in her arms, but then she's like, come on, let it out. And then you're like, ah! You start really crying. It's like you got to take the sensitivity to another level. So I kind of, something like that where I really go into it, and then something happens where poof, he's in. And I stay there like, it's almost like I was driving the car And then I let Phineas take the wheel, and I went in the back seat, put my headphones on, and took a nap. That's what it feels like for me. So if I were to, like, I don't really remember a lot of what is said when I channel.
Yeah.
I feel like they downloaded into me, but I couldn't repeat to you 80% of what he channeled. Like, probably could repeat a few lines. And that's because I let go so much that I'm not attaching myself to it. I really am letting him use the body. He stood up and walked around. He's been on retreats walking around through Egypt. We'll get to Egypt now. Wow, we're going to just jump over to Egypt. Talk to me about Egypt. What do you want to talk about? I go there twice a year.
Yeah, well, I was just on a trip last December that just blew the lid open to me about what's actually possible, and how deep the rabbit hole goes in terms of that land and these ancient structures of technology that were built there hundreds of thousands of years ago.
Yes.
Maybe even dating back to pre-human, or I believe there was a co-creation between humans and extraterrestrial races.
I believe so also.
So I think what we could start is the tone and the frequency. What is that role within these ancient structures to activate ourselves spiritually and go into ascension? Because I believe they were like these ascension devices.
Yes.
While we were using our tone and our frequency inside of the King's Chamber, we were toning all of that, and it just activated. The King's Chamber is tuned
to 432 hertz.
Yeah.
But they've proven that sound is what resonates the most in that chamber.
Yeah. And each pyramid is tuned to a different frequency. And Robert Grant, he's finding that with the slope angle of each pyramid.
Exactly. So these were the pyramids, from what I have channeled, were sound healing spaces. They were where you get healed. They were not tombs. There's never been a body found in any of the pyramids. Hello? What? They've never found a body. It is not a tomb. Everything about it was purposefully created. They didn't need such a big tomb. So in those chambers where the frequency, the sound was being used to heal, there are some studies now that are showing that diseased cells seem to emanate a certain frequency and healthy cells emanate another frequency. Yes, I think that research is going to go quite far. I think that also AI is going to help us with that. I think AI is going to help us a lot with a lot of problems, which is great. So just think about it. Cars help us move faster than we could on our feet. We created an artificial intelligence called cars. It is. It has a brain. It's a computer. We just have to know how to use it, and it'll help us move faster than we could before. It's a tool. And like any tool that was created in any civilization, like the hammer can be used to build or to break. That's it. You build a house with a hammer, and you tear down the house beforehand with a sledgehammer. So the frequency, you might say that there's a frequency that's emanating throughout the land of Egypt. There's a feeling that is in the air. There's a frequency. Now, some people who don't really believe in frequency, they do believe in vibes. I've met people who don't believe in psychic work and channeling and anything, people in my own family or people I've known, who will definitely use the word vibes. Oh, that place had bad vibes. Okay, you know vibes mean vibration, right? And vibrations mean frequency. So you were feeling the frequency there. You didn't like it. And now you're saying it had bad vibes, but you don't believe in spiritual things. Okay, the moment you say vibes, you do. So every place has a vibe. If you go to a theater that has performances all week long and you go on a Monday when it's dark and no audience is there, there's a vibe in that theater, even though there's no performers. You can feel it when you walk through a theater. But if you go to an office on a Sunday afternoon when no one is there, there's no vibe. It's dead. Yeah, because most of the people don't want to be there when they're there all week long. There's no vibe. So the vibration of what occurs in spaces often stays. And as a psychic medium, I'll tell you, a lot of the paranormal investigations I do, sometimes it's just the vibration that's there, not even the spirit or the ghost. It's just replaying a particular vibration. It's just echoing continuously, and people think there's a ghost there. There isn't. It's just, you're just hearing the echo. They call that a residual haunting. Now, in the case of Egypt, we are talking about a vortex, and many people, first of all, believe that it's the center of the earth. That is the point where all points intersect on the earth through a particular mode of understanding about ley lines and that. Also, clearly it is Orion's belt, the position of the three pyramids. We can really go into that. But places call you because there is an attunement that needs to happen when you go there. Now, some places call you just because you say, oh, I want to see that thing. It's cool. And that's how spirit works. You're going because you think it's cool. I want to go and take a picture of me in front of it. Good. You should. But there's a deeper reason, deeper magic happening. Your spiritual ancestors are calling you there. They're calling you there because it's time for your upgrade. It's time for your download. It's time for the next level of your evolution, and those places will do it. And Egypt is one of the most powerful places on earth. What do you want to talk about anything in particular?
Whatever comes through right now. I like the aspect that you're getting to about upgrade, because I definitely did feel a before and after, and an upgrade after that trip.
Now, notice that the upgrade, sometimes I've brought people to certain sites in Egypt, and back here in the States when they were ready to go, they were so excited, and they get to Egypt, and some of them had crying fits. They were at the Valley of the Kings. If you go to the Valley of the Kings, it's like you think you're in Star Wars. You're on another planet. And there was someone there once who was there with me who just broke down and cried. And I said, wow, it's so interesting. Other people are here very happy. This person was tuning into a lifetime that he had there. And it did not end well. And he didn't like who he was in that lifetime. But you say, well, how come he felt it there and he didn't feel it back home? Well, because places hold an energy. Like I just proved to you about the theater and the office. It's like they hold an energy. The echo is continuing. Egypt is a place that there's so much more that is still yet as undiscovered under the sand. There are places where what's in the chamber is bigger than any of the entranceways leading to it. How did they get it up here and then down here and then into this room where it's not even big enough to get through the door? So someone goes, well, they built around it. They built around it? It's up three stories. Like there's a lot of things when you're there, when you see that, and you saw the cuts on some of the rock.
Yeah.
It's literally as if a laser cut it. You can't slip a piece of paper between those rocks. So the technology is almost beyond our comprehension. We might never really know exactly, but I might say we're getting the downloads that it wasn't just from this earth.
Yeah. Why is that? Why is all that information coming out right now at this point?
Because consciousness is always wanting to expand. It's in its nature. When you are fighting your nature, see, we shut down people's creative nature. What do we do when kids are 5 years old? If, this little guy is making a tree and it doesn't look like a tree, and then she makes a drawing that looks like a tree, we're like, hey, you're really good. Because it looked like the tree. And his interpretive drawing, we're like, oh, better luck next time. But the other kid's a real artist because it looks like a pretty tree. But that's not how Picasso painted trees. Who's the legend? So, who's the channeler? You know what I'm saying? It's about that, what comes through. Excuse me. So, everything is frequency. Color is a frequency. We already know this. A master painter looks at a painting and is able to see, the studies have shown this, 300 times more color or gradients of color they perceive than the average person. So the master painter can come up to a painting that to me and you looks like that's an awesome, like all the green. It's the whole painting is all monochromatic, all these different shades of green. the master painter comes over and goes, yeah, I see the pink and yellow also. And we're like, there's no pink and yellow. That's all green. But because her frequency perception in her eyes and how she's been trained and whatever her gift is, she can just see the underlying paint. And we can't.
Well, I'll really blow your mind right there, because
please,
about the King's Chamber, this man that I told you that I went on the trip with, Robert Edward Grant, he is a master mathematician. He's a polymath, so he's studied in many fields, and he spent a couple nights already inside of the King's Chamber. And, the more he got in there, he started to perceive with his spiritual eyes, and he started to decipher what were figures around the walls of the King's Chamber. And now he's getting together with astrologers or astronomers, and what they saw is that the figures that are on the wall, it's like a calendar of the 32 deacons of astrology. Like you'll see a phoenix, you'll see a bull, you'll see a cow.
Yeah.
You'll see all of the astrological signs around the walls, but you can't just perceive it if you go in there and you're like, oh, it's just a wall. But he started to perceive it, and then he brought his little red laser and he's like, look, there's a phoenix right there. And then all of a sudden everyone saw it. And it was like, oh, something's going on there.
When you have to squat and crawl in that last bit to get in there. I mean, that's an amazing experience, because to me, that's saying you have to become smaller to receive. So for those of you who don't know, you go up these stairs and then you go up another stairs, and then you have to squat down. How would you say, 3 feet, 4 feet?
Yeah, about.
Yeah, I'm 6'3", so I have to crawl. I can't
squeeze in there.
Yeah, so you're going through, and then you get to this big chamber. I felt that represents the birth canal.
Huh. Yeah.
You're going from one world into the other, and once you're in there, now it opens up, and you're in another place. It's very important. I believe everyone who can should get to Egypt and really go with people who are not there just to click pictures, but who have these kinds of conversations.
Yeah. Wow. So
yeah, we go every December. Anyone who wants to come, take a look at my site. We go December and February every year.
What dates are in there in December this year?
Yeah, this year, December 2nd through 9th, we'll be there. Huh. This is amazing, Emilio. We might need to do a part 2, brother.
No, we will, 100%. And really, I think just to start wrapping up, if there's anything that I know when you're tuning in with your psychic energy, you are able to read out into what's going on in the current state.
Yes.
Is there anything that you'd like to address for humanity of what's coming for us this year and the years to follow?
Yes, I absolutely do. The shift that everyone keeps talking about. There's two things that people want to see when they hear from seers or mediums. They want to know, is it going to be okay, and what is actually going to happen? And on the other hand, we're talking about the evolution of the soul and how reality is being co-created by all of us. Sometimes people just want to hear one or the other. No, just tell me what's going to happen. And I go, they are inextricable from one another. These are not separate events, your personal evolution and how we're all co-creating as a consciousness, as opposed to who's going to be president and what's going to happen, and is all hell going to break loose. What I have seen, and I'm going to tell you from someone who's in the field, who works with people all day long, every single day, what I am seeing, and I'm working with all different kinds of people from all different walks of life. It ain't just people who can afford healers. A portion of my work is with people who can't afford any work, and I just do it for free. So it's not just a certain group of people. It's everyone that I feel I can get to. I'll just tell you from my experience out there in the field, is that what I'm seeing is people are really cleaning up their own backyards. They're like, I can't really be worried about what's happening out here till I actually get straight with, stop thinking that people are constantly doing things to me, or not accepting myself for who it is that I am, or not creating myself into what I know I'm supposed to be. Creating yourself into what you know you're supposed to be is you surrendering to who you really are. I'll say it again. Creating yourself for who you want to be is actually you just surrendering to who you really are. That's a very big difference in terms of energy output. you trying to go create some version of yourself that you think you're supposed to be, who lives out over there, rather than to you surrendering to that you that is sitting here right now, listening and watching.
It's the ego surrendering to the soul in many ways.
Yeah, it's the interface. The ego is just the interface that you need to survive at the moment. It's not a bad thing. It's just when it's outweighed its welcome, outstayed its welcome, and outweighed its welcome, another interface appears. Ego it serves a purpose for you to deal with the situation, but for you to, like you said, to have a clearer understanding that you're actually awareness and soul, and that however you appear, some of the most amazing people I've ever met come across really strong, and people will think that they're like putting a show on, and they weren't. They actually were just surrendered to who they are. And so that's why you have all these haters out there. When people are doing something different, they look different, they talk different, they're giving you different ideas, and then you'll have all these haters because we live in the comment generation. So my big thing to you people is releasing judgment was true even for Jesus to teach 2,000 years ago, and it's still true to this day. To this day, that teaching is still there. And what are we seeing in the comment sections of everything? Judgments, constantly. Instead of being enough peace with yourself to go, that's possible. I'm going to use that. Rather than pointing fingers, we're just seeing all this. This is what's happening. That's why we're constantly seeing the battle of the misuse of ego. How do you use your ego? How do you use your interface? Gandhi used it in a powerful way. Oh, he had to have ego. He has to have a sense of self. Strong one. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. So does the mountain. Does the mountain have an ego? No, the mountain is surrendered to itself, but the ant might think the mountain has an ego. Who does this mountain think he is? Towering up to the sky. The mountain's like, who do I think I am? I'm exactly who I think I am. I am. And I thought that I am, and therefore I am, and I've become what I am more than ever. Feel free to climb up this mountain, climb up me, enjoy, have a picnic. I see more and more people, the shift is that they're surrendering to knowing that they are the ones who create and own their peace. And that shift automatically disarms, defuses all the bombs of conflict and contrast with everybody else. Because you start to see everything as part of the bigger picture. I see this happening more and more. More than ever, more than 10 years ago, more than 5 years ago. And that's what excites me. And I just want to say, let's keep it going. I'm going to blow some more wind into your sails. That's the work that I do. I just want to blow more wind into your sails. Sometimes we've got to turn the sail that way, though. Then we'll blow more wind into it. See, the discussion goes on forever, man. It goes on forever.
Wow. Riz, we end every show with a segment called the Final Trio, which are just rapid fire questions.
Oh.
But before that, where can people connect with you further? I know people are going to want to
social media. On Instagram, it's Psychic Riz the Wiz. You'll see a blue check mark. My YouTube channel is The Magical Life, which I have live psychic readings every Sunday night on YouTube, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, that my wife and I host. And it's live. It's really fun and really energetic. And there's my website, which you probably will put a link to, which is rizmirza.com. All my services, my retreats, my shamanic, sacred plant medicine, journeying, all that stuff you can find there.
And how do you feel about Riz being the most used word in 2023?
Yo, that was so crazy. That is so crazy. People were like, now when I go to Starbucks and I'm like, they're like, what's your name? I'm like, Riz. They're like, ha, ha, ha. Yeah, you got Riz. I'm like, no. I have actually pulled out my ID, shown them that my name is Riz with one Z, not two. You know, it's poetic justice. My whole life I growing up in the Bronx, and people were making fun of my name, and now everybody's like, finally, after 50 years on the planet,
they finally get it. They finally get
it. My name is cool. It never was cool. Now it's cool. Now my kids think it's cool.
Awesome.
Buddy, thank you.
So for the final trio, the first two are personalized to the guests, and the last one we ask at the end of every show. This first one is, what is the most profound lesson that you have learned from your own channeled material?
It does change week, month to month, because something I remember something. I'll tell you. Red Eagle once said to me, he goes, in 20 years, you will look back at a snippet of this moment and you'll say to yourself, how come I didn't see how wonderful I was and how wonderful everybody else was? And I went, wow. He goes, you will say, how come I didn't see how beautiful I was, and how come I didn't see how beautiful everybody else was too? That rings really powerfully for me. Yeah. Because as you get older, instead of counting up to what age you're going to get to, you start counting down how much time you got left. Okay.
Very powerful.
Number
2, what is it like seeing through the eye of God?
When I think that my whole life is seeing through the eye of God, all of us. But when I realize that it's happening, I go, oh, this is the feeling I've been waiting for. This is the feeling that I wanted out of every freaking experience I've ever had. And plant medicine journeying taught me that. Sacred mushroom journeying taught me that. And then I went on to lead more than 2,000 ceremonies myself, because I wanted people to see that nature was a part of us, and that there's gifts and tools we can use. Yeah, so that's it.
I love that. If you want to show us again the tattoo of the eye of God before.
The eye of God. That's what that tattoo is, guys.
Not Illuminati. Not Illuminati.
Don't get it twisted, please. Come on.
Amazing. So the final question. We are gonna have to do this again, brother, for sure.
Okay.
Bring in Red Eagle next time.
Yes, let's do that.
And we call this the time capsule question. So it requires us to look ahead to the future, around 15 to 20 years.
All right.
The reason I chose that time frame is because I feel that is the moment when the younger generation is going to be stepping into more leadership positions around the world.
Yeah.
And they're going to need some guidance.
Right.
And you were given the opportunity to have a time capsule where you knew that this time capsule was going to be opened in 20 years by these future leaders. Okay. And you can put in anything that you want in that time capsule. It doesn't have to be anything physical. It could be a transmission, a message, whatever it is, beyond your imagination. What would you leave behind in the time capsule?
I would leave a recording of 3 Little Birds by Bob Marley.
Ooh. I just watched his movie, One Love.
I haven't seen it yet.
And in that movie, he says the actor that plays him says, you can't separate the message from the music. So what message is in that song that you resonate with?
Every little thing is going to be all right. And the birds will always speak to you if you open your ears, and it will return you to the frequency of creation and everything that is, and that you're eternal.
Beautiful. And on top of the time capsule, there's a gold plate with your name on it. And you can carve in a question, a contemplative question for these leaders to think about.
What if you made it so? Question mark.
That'll get them thinking. That's a deep one. That's a deep one. Oh man, Riz, thank you so much for imparting us this beautiful wisdom. I really appreciate you from the heart, and I know we'll continue to have these conversations. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the work you do.
Of course. That's why we're here.
Yeah.